of double stabs. I played around with snakes a little bit with clubs and quite a lot with koi. And it was one of those things that this weekend I spent a whole bunch of time thinking about how can I apply this idea to double stabs. And quickly realized that there were multiple different approaches to how you could think about translating this idea into how double stabs move. So let's start from the start and just talk about the theory of what snakes are. Now, I believe there are a move that originates with clubs, but we in the koi world have been using them for quite a while as a type of body tracing. I learned this move from both G and Thomas Nevisol at different points in the past. And the thought always was is that you're trying to essentially do a pair of pedals behind the shoulder as you're moving your hand back and forth across it. Ellie and John actually came up with an interesting theory of what makes this move work that I quite like, which is that in his mind, it's an example of a linear isolation. That is, you're moving your hand straight back and forth in a lateral line, and what you're trying to do is create a pedal each way you go. As I'm going from right to left, I'm doing a pedal up. As I'm going from left to right, I'm doing a pedal down. And you can think of those pedals as being very, very long and narrow, almost like stalls that you're immediately coming out of, right? So what then makes a snake work is that you're dropping those pedals behind your back each time. As you go down, you go up, you go down, you go up. And in that way, you're able to produce that really kind of sharp movement behind the back that makes it look very snaky, right? I don't think club snakes are made exactly the same way, but this is kind of the theory that I'm coming from when I comes to thinking about snakes currently. Okay, so then the question winds up being, how do we translate this to the movement of double stabs? Well, we have two options, because of course the one thing that the stabs have that the koi doesn't is that they've got two different ends. So one of the questions we have to ask ourselves, if we're going to apply this theory to double stabs, is to what extent do we only let the thumb end be the end that we're thinking of in an operative fashion, like it is with the koi. With the koi, we only have to worry about the thumb end unless you're doing two koi, one hand or medium. Whereas with the stab, you have a pinkie to worry about as well. So we wanted to come at it from the perspective of saying, okay, either one of these ends is just as legit in thinking about what the koi was doing. So for example, I can do that linear isolation with the thumb end, and then come back and do it with pinkie end. Thumb end, pinkie end, thumb end, pinkie end. And the way I'm kind of thinking of this in my head is, in keeping with that idea of linear isolation, I'm kind of rotating the staff by half a rotation and isolating it around the end that's closest to the shoulder, right? So I have a half a rotation, and I isolate it around my thumb end. I have half a rotation, and I isolate it around my thumb end. Oops, sorry, this is my pinkie end. Isolate it around my pinkie end, rotate it around, isolate it around my thumb end, rotate it around, isolate it around my pinkie end, rotate it around, isolate it around my thumb end, so on and so forth, right? Our other option is to say only the thumb end counts, because that's the way it works with koi, in which case we would do isolate around the thumb end, and now I have to do a complete rotation to bring my thumb end back around towards my shoulder, like so. Complete rotation to bring it around my shoulder, I isolate it. Complete rotation to bring it around my shoulder, I isolate it. Complete rotation to bring it around my shoulder, I isolate it, so on and so forth, right? And the theory here is that essentially there are moments where the staff is kind of on top of your arm like this, and I'm almost gripping it like a pencil between my thumb, index finger, and middle finger, and then I can rotate it to thumb up, thumb out, thumb down, and then back, and now it's underneath my arm. So now all of my fingers are resting on top of the staff, with the staff resting on my thumb. As I isolate it down and around, I have that same grip here in front of myself, and I go to thumb down, thumb to the left, thumb up, and then rotate it all the way around so that it's on top of my arm. And I'm having that pencil-like grip once again, where it's kind of resting on top of a little web between my index finger and my thumb. So I isolate around the thumb end, rotate the thumb end around underneath my arm, isolate around the thumb end, rotate around my thumb end on top, isolate it around, get the thumb under, isolate around, get the thumb over. Yeah? So then we have to apply this with 2 stabs at the same time, of course. And for the first case, in which either the thumb or the pinky end can be the isolator round, I've been starting here with my arms in the middle, my right arm on top, my left hand on the bottom. And both my thumb ends, that is the orange ends, are pointed off to my right hand side, in which case my right hand is going to isolate around my thumb end, and my left hand is going to isolate around my pinky end. So, boom, right hand goes up, left hand goes down, and out to the sides. Both of my thumb ends are pointing to the left, both my pinky ends are pointing towards the right. I'm going to rotate both of the stabs and half a rotation, and isolate the left thumb end, the right pinky end to come around. And now with both of my stabs, I am pointing the thumb ends to the left. So I'm going to rotate them a half a rotation to get them back to the right hand side. And isolate pinky left, thumb right, come out to the sides. Give them a half a rotation. Isolate pinky right, thumb left. Of course, the right hand goes down, left hand goes up. And give them a half a rotation in the middle. And we'll speed it up. This is what happens. Hang on, I'm trying to get the other one there. There it is. Awesome. Okay, so now it's a question of when the thumbs are going to work. And here, I'm once again going to start with my right hand on top, my left hand on the bottom, my arms in the center like this. And my right hand thumb end is off to the right, my left hand thumb end is to the left. So I have the staff kind of resting on top of my thumb and my left hand. And I isolate them both around and crank both of them around full rotation. So now my right hand staff is underneath my arm, my left hand staff is above my arm. And isolate them around. Here's where it gets tricky. Essentially what I have to do in the middle here is I let them veer slightly to my left-hand side and rotate them, left thumb up, right thumb down, bring it back to parallel, bring it slightly to my right-hand side and have right thumb up, left hand down, and continue rotating them around until I get my right hand on top, my left hand on the bottom, and my left thumb is towards my left, my right thumb is towards my right. It takes a little bit of maneuvering, but the results are quite pretty. It just takes twice as many rotations as the other approach. So once again, we want to think rotation, isolation, rotation, isolation, rotation, isolation, rotation, isolation. Yeah? Cool. So, yeah. I got the feeling when I put questions about this out there in the double stack world that not a lot of people play in the sandbox, so I hope this changes that to some degree. And that you guys find the snake that appeals to you most and play around with it a little bit to your heart's content. And by the way, if any of you out there have played around a lot with snake theory and I just somehow didn't find you while I was making inquiries on Facebook, please let me know if you know more coherent theory on how these work with double stacks, because at this point I'm kind of making it up as I go along. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and have a good one. I will have an tech log for you in 2 weeks. Peace.
This video was made possible thanks to the kind contributions of these folks right here. In addition, special thanks to Sean, Prisna, Kiro, as well as Andrew Hammond and Ben Reynolds. Thank you guys so much for making these videos possible. If you've enjoyed these videos or learned anything from them, please consider making a contribution at drexfactor.com/support. Help me to keep on making these videos that you love. Thanks.